Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you who have not seen this before, this is where I take 10 questions submitted by the subscribers. The subscribers are the subset of the backers that contribute money every month to allow us to be able to do a higher degree of community content, of which the show is one, Around the Verse is another, The Wonderful Wide World of Star Citizens another, which is done by Disco Lando. Plus the Jump Point magazine we do, that's usually sort of 50 to 70 pages of behind the scenes material of how we built ships or did game mechanics and has some fiction and lore about the world, and then other occasional pieces. So like later this week we'll have a piece about our new German office. You'll get to meet them finally, and meet the devs, all that kind of stuff. So that's all made possible by the contribution of subscribers. We use that money to sort of really have, I would say, probably the best sort of community-facing interaction, communication, share our development processes with you guys. So thank you very much, subscribers, for doing that. So here is my 10 for the Chairman questions. I'd like to say that this is probably going to be the last 10 for the Chairman that you get from me for a while, because I'm getting on a plane. This is we're shooting this on Friday for Monday airing, but I'm actually flying on Monday to the UK, where I'm going to be working hard on the performance capture sessions for Squadron 42, which is going to be very cool. Hannes and myself are going to be working with all the actors and setting up all the scenes for Squadron 42. We've got some, we're going to have a pretty awesome cast. We're not going to share it yet. It's going to be something that we'll reveal closer to the date, but I think you guys will be both impressed and happy. Stories for Squadron 42 is shaping up really well. I think we haven't shared in detail. Later on we will share it, but essentially we've got a really big sort of story arc, so we're going to split it into a trilogy. See, Wing Commander 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. So episode 1 is what people will play this year, and that's the one that has the equivalent of 70 Wing Commander style missions, and it's formulated a little differently than say the old Wing Commander, because in Wing Commander it was like you flew a space mission and then you were aboard the ship and had some conversation and you flew another space mission, whereas in Squadron 42 you can fly a space mission and then land, get out, get into a firefight with some pirates, then chase another pirate, he gets into a ship and takes off, you get into a ship and chase him. So in the old sort of Wing Commander format, that's actually 3 missions, but it's all sort of one fluid thing that happens. There'll be 3 sort of checkpoints, so to speak, in Squadron 42 for those kind of things, but it would sort of all be one overall mission. So we're sort of thinking it's like 20, I think it's 21 chapters or so, and each chapter sort of is a segment of missions that sort of are kind of fluid. So they sort of do this, and then maybe you'll stop and be talking around and dealing with people and then get into some action, and then it sort of goes on like that. So it's the equivalent of about 70 missions, Wing Commander style. I think we think it's about 20 hours of gameplay. It's pretty damn cool. Like I said, we're going to have an awesome cast, and then you'll be spending time with them for the next. So episode 2 is Behind Enemy Lines, which I think everyone that backed until like 6 million gets for free, and then episode 3 would be the year after that. So we're sort of thinking that we'll have each one of these. Each one of them is the equivalent of a huge AAA Call of Duty or better, because we've got a much bigger campaign, and it's cool. And so anyway, I'm going to shoot that. We're working really hard. The UK guys are heads down, and we've got a whole bunch of other people. So the German office is helping a lot on Squadron 42 and other areas of so Ilphonic. A lot of the FPS mechanics will go into Squadron 42. Stuff that we're doing for space here in LA is going into it, and some of the animation and other aspects are also happening in Austin for Squadron 42. So it's going to be pretty cool. But I'm going to be in the UK for the next almost 3 months. So basically, we're starting shooting a couple of weeks from now, but I've got to do prep. Also spend a bit of time on Foundry 42, and then we'll shoot all the way through till about the end of June. And we'll also be doing some more motion capture and stuff like that. So, but it's going to be fun. I'm really excited. It's going to be cinematic, great, lots of movement. So everyone that's a Wing Commander fan and wants the next generation Wing Commander, I think is going to be very, very happy with Squadron 42. and what you'll get to play this year, and then you'll have stuff to look forward to the next few years while we're busily finishing out the game, which is something that we're going to be doing next year in terms of the persistent universe and all the rest of the stuff. So I think the idea is really just to sort of keep on building the universe and the world, and also be releasing narrative stories for you to play, and eventually we'll also be doing ones that aren't so sort of military focused, like Squadron 42, maybe a sort of more kind of rogue Han Solo style story and stuff like that. But this one's pretty awesome. It's a pretty big storyline. I don't want to get into too much details, but it's sort of the overall story arc was what the writer from Sci-Fi was referring to, who shouldn't have actually written that in the article because I told her not to, but she seemed to forget that part. But anyway, it's the overall arc of, that's why there's behind enemy lines in the second episode. Anyway, all right, enough of that. On to the questions. First question comes from Siberian Tiger, who asks, there are some great dogfighters in the game right now, and the more they fly, the better they become. How will the concept of the more you play, the better you become apply to medics and surgeons? That's a good question. So definitely that will be the case in mining and some of the other sort of things that we want to do, like exploration and stuff. It's probably early to say in terms of medics and surgeons, kind of what the gameplay and mechanics will be for that. But if you can key it off what we talked about doing for, say, the mining, I would think that on a certain level, perhaps there would be maybe some higher level stuff that will require some skill. I mean, the basic level of stuff where you're just giving someone like his equivalent of a stim pack is, not so difficult. Although, the thing for the medic and the surgeon stuff is going to be partly the recovery bit, right? Getting the person, getting them into the ship, getting them on the bed, and then sort of fixing them up. But perhaps there can be some level of skill in the sort of higher level, like saving, triaging someone's life. But we really haven't sat down to sort of design that yet. That would be something that down the road we would focus on, but I wouldn't say that's the sort of very first thing that's getting done, because we've got a lot of systems to get done. So I think what you'd probably see with medics and surgeons at the beginning in the sort of Cutlass Red is, it's more about getting people, bringing them to your ship, giving them a stim pack, or using a more powerful med device, and then later on maybe we'll let you do some kind of sort of more complicated operation that at the beginning will only be the sort of thing you can get on a sort of hospital that will be on a planet side or something, or on a hospital ship. Okay, next question comes from JSD, who says, regarding ship's weapons, can we expect to see some other kind of projectiles instead of traditional colored lines going in a straight line? Perhaps some projectiles with more erratic behaviors like lightning bolts, shockwaves, or whatever your talented special effects artist may come up with. So yeah, definitely we're going to see a lot more different kind of projectiles. You haven't seen that much in the game yet. FPS will bring some more, so we have some we have an electric shotgun, which has a different kind of projectile. We're going to have sort of neutron guns and plasma guns, and they will all have specific projectiles. So that's all in the pipeline and getting work. So you'll see some stuff in FPS, and then it'll also, more stuff's going to be coming to space and Arena Commander. Okay, next question comes from Maudib, from Arrakis, I guess, who asks, with the introduction of mining and resource gathering, will there be any other uses for gathered refined resources other than just selling them to an NPC in the system where they are worth the most? Well, I mean, it sort of depends. I mean, in general, you're going to mine, and then perhaps you'll refine yourself, or you would just sell it on to someone that will refine, and then you would deliver it to sort of a economic node that would be a consumer of the raw materials or the refined materials. So in the first stage of stuff we're doing, it's going to be mostly NPC economic nodes, and then the sort of second stage stuff is allowing sort of players to have a bit of their own business. So potentially later on in the economic chain, you'll be able to sort of maybe have a complete industry where you've got your, I don't know, let's just say your munitions factory or your ship factory or whatever, your factory making widgets, and all along the supply chain you're involved, or you own it, where you have people mining and then they take it to a refining node that you own or someone owns, and then the refined materials come to you for your economic node to produce the final materials. So that's that's kind of the idea of the resource gathering. I think that's kind of the uses that make sense. So hope that helps. Next question comes from Rags, who asks, will we have the ability to fabricate weapons, armor, ship parts? So when a player owns a economic node, and one of them potentially could be something that makes weapons or something like that, or armor, that would be how you would sort of generate these parts. We're not planning on having like everybody owns their own economic node, but some of these will be available, it would be, I don't know whether you want to, it's not really end game because we don't have an end game in Star Citizen. That's generally what people refer to, kind of later stage stuff in MMOs. But that would be a longer term sort of goal for someone that's less interested in sort of the adventuring and the combat side and more in sort of the kind of business tycoon or economic part. So you'll sort of be able to build these things, and you'll obviously be purchasing raw materials from other people to build them, and then you would sell them on to other people, or you could also consume them yourself. So in terms of having someone have the ability to fabricate weapons, armor, ship parts themselves on a smaller scale, that's not in the initial sort of plan implementation, but I kind of would see at some point we may have a sort of smaller scale economic node that maybe is, I don't know, sort of a factory ship or something that someone could buy, and that potentially could have the ability to do that, which is, essentially you need to get this many resources, and then after a certain amount of time, when crew and operation, then it spits out, the final item. Okay, there you go. I hope that helps out. Next question comes from in brackets ADT Grumpf. Grumpf isn't in brackets, by the way. It's just ADT in brackets and then Grumpf. Are there any plans to incorporate helmet cam feeds that could facilitate a Marine team leader role? Well, we're definitely planning on having spectator sort of cameras. So in Arena Commander, we already have plans for that to come in, where you could like connect as a remote viewer, spectator client, and just kind of see the battle. And I think that potentially when someone gets killed in FPS and you're on the same team, perhaps you can sort of have a helmet cam from one of your teammates. That won't be in the very first release of FPS, but later on it's pretty easy to do. I don't know so much about having like a multi team leader role in terms of, like seeing 4 of your guys all on the same screen like you would do a la Aliens, mainly because CryEngine isn't very good at having multi-camera views all at the same time, and also you're just basically rendering 4 3D worlds all at the same time, which can be problematic in such a heavily detailed world we have. Now, we're definitely going to allow people to stream their point of view and everything else, so I think that people could kind of have an ad hoc version where you've just plugged in and you're looking at 3 or 4 streams from people. So that is actual technology we are working on. We're longer term going to build in a client that's inside, actually streaming tech inside your client, that you'll be able to just press a button and stream automatically without having to use a third-party software, and it will stream out to a multiplexer that we can rebroadcast on our site. And I mean, I'm guessing that we could maybe even take that and play it back as a sort of like watching a stream from the web inside a texture in our game. But that would be sort of a later stage thing, so that'd be kind of a cool way to implement it. Just thought about that right now, by the way. So that's kind of where we're at on it. But longer term, I mean, those kind of things are cool. We definitely want to have the sort of voyeuristic side. So like even in terms of the streaming that I was mentioning, one of my plans longer term for Star Citizen is we'll sort of have the equivalent of traffic cams around the universe, like place 1 or 2 around Sol or Terra, or a jump point or 2, and literally you can go to our website and we'll just have remote clients connected, not playing as players, but as a camera connected, and it will be streaming it to a client that then will be streaming that video off, and you can go to our website. You can sort of like click around and say, oh, what's happening in orbit around Terra right now, and sort of see what's going on, which is going to be kind of cool, and the tech allows for that. So that's something we have in progress, and probably we'll first be debuting it inside Arena Commander, where you'll sort of be able to sort of see streams of ongoing matches, and the longer term goal of that is to see sort of a stream of an ongoing match. It's all done inside like our web platform basis, so you can like actually see someone's avatar, say in a comment section of Forest, and you can see whether he's broadcasting right now. You can click on his avatar and you can go to his own page and you can see his stream, and it would all be integrated inside our platform. And you could also see streams of like say ongoing multiplayer matches, and maybe click on it and join it if there's room and stuff like that. So that's the longer term goal that I want to get to. Obviously it's not happening in the next few months, but we are actively doing R&D and tech towards having that kind of sort of experience, because I definitely think that is a large part of the future, and it's definitely sharing your experiences. I'm already seeing people doing it already in Star Citizen on Twitch and on YouTube, and we just want to make it easier and better and more integrated for people to do that, and also make it as a sort of window in the world. So I think it'll be super cool. Okay, next question comes from Rubik, who asks, why did you decide to move away from the asymmetrical design on the Herald? I mean, essentially we showed the design, and Jim Martin, who is the guy that designed the Herald and also designed the Cutlass and designed the Freelancer, sort of was playing around with some more ideas, and so it's kind of I sort of preferred one of the later ones. I mean, it's I think to a certain extent slightly asymmetrical. It's not fully asymmetrical, but it's not as asymmetrical as the original one was. But the idea is it sort of can blossom out into this sort of kind of like I guess transmission array, which was kind of cool. And then in between it looks a bit sleeker and a little bit faster. To a certain extent, I sort of felt like it was a visually more interesting and appealed to me. And if I had seen that sooner, then we probably wouldn't have shown the other asymmetrical design. So it's my fault, sorry. Okay, next question comes from Nikolai Armitage, who asks, firstly, I would like to say the Vanguard is amazing. I love the redundancy. I am really curious, how will the 2 by size 2 shields work? Well, generally what happens is we would probably have we would have 2 shield nodes. And so each shield node essentially, so they would cover a portion, say half of the ship, and the other one would cover the other half. So if one goes down, you don't lose the whole shield. So that's kind of the idea of having multiple shields. So like on the bigger the ships, the bigger capital ships, you actually get more and stronger, more focused coverage, because you can't have just one shield generator that takes a whole capital ship. So you'd have multiple shield generators at various points, and so that means that you don't have a single point of failure for your sort of shield coverage. So that's kind of the concept of having sort of the multiple shield generators. All right, next question comes from Data Transfer, who asks, as far as the FPS is concerned, what games have you drawn on for inspiration? Would you describe the Star Marine module as having a familiar feel or flavor? How will the portion of the game differ from other types of FPS experiences? Well, so it sort of depends. I mean, so for me, I play a fair amount of FPS. I wouldn't say I'm like a crazy FPS diehard. But Call of Duty, Battlefield's probably my favorite of sort of the FPS experiences, mostly because I like the idea of teamwork, and so working with your sort of core teams, or being in a vehicle and someone's on the machine gun and someone's on the gun turret, which you can sort of see the a much more detailed, bigger, ambitious version of that, what we want to do on the multi-crew ships. So I kind of like that aspect of the FPS gameplay. Other FPS games that are fun, the Far Cry series, like 4 was a lot of fun, Far Cry 3 was a lot of fun. So they're all, they're all kind of ones that I would play. I don't want the FPS to be specifically too much like all the other ones, though. So that's why we're doing some things different, because we have different constraints. We don't have the sort of same respawn mechanic that you would have in pretty much all the games I described. I do think Call of Duty is way too sort of robot, move around, floaty. It doesn't really feel very organic to me. I would say of the ones that do it the best, probably for me, Battlefield and Far Cry sort of feel sort of a bit more organic-y. Armor, 3 is interesting in so fact that it's much more sort of realism based, so we're sort of trending a little bit towards that. So I mean, we're sort of taking elements that are focused more for sort of slightly slower pace play, because As I said, you don't really can respawn instantly the way that you can in a lot of these other sort of multiplayer games. So for us, you get shot, maybe your friend can drag you back and sort of, you know, put a stim pack in you and bring you back, which is sort of our respawn mechanic. But you know, generally, you know, the combat itself is ultimately potentially, you know, more lethal, or sort of more session, like that particular session ending, you can get taken out. It's not like you can just constantly respawn like you can in, you know, whatever, Counter-Strike or something like that. So you know, I think we kind of want to like have sort of a feel of kind of like the battlefield first person in terms of like how your weapons and handling feels, but with a more sort of tactical kind of sense that you would maybe get in a Rainbow Six or in an Armor 3, but you know, not going too far down that sense. But I definitely want an idea in the FPS that allows you to you know, have trade-offs, right? So I know some people complain about, oh, I don't like having the helmet and it jiggling around on my head, or oh, I'd like a lighter, wider view. Well, yeah, but you know what? If you're wearing heavy armor, like, you should be constricted. You should not have as good of a view, and there should be an awkward heavy helmet that like bounces up and down, because that's a downside of having heavy armor that allows you to take more hits. Now, if you don't have a helmet on, well, you don't have any of those problems, but then you don't have protection on your head. And you know, if you have light armor, then maybe you have a much better view and the helmet's lighter and doesn't bounce around as much, but then you can't take as many hits. So I really want the trade-off. So you know, the same again for like the breathing mechanic and stamina. Like if you're wearing heavy armor, you can't run and sprint as much as if you're wearing light armor, and you can be out of breath. And if you're out of breath, you can't necessarily aim quite as well as you can if you're, you know, like not out of breath. And so all those things that's basically resource management in how you fight. And I want to have those play into, because I sort of feel like in a lot of sort of the very quick run and gun FPSs, you know, you don't necessarily have those. So trying to, you know, that's kind of the goal. You know, so it's less sort of like run and gun the way, say, Halo or a Destiny would be, although Destiny does have very nice weapon handling. And sort of walk the balance between a certain amount of like resource management and realism, but also sort of sci-fi fun. So somewhere between, you know, whatever the Battlefields or the Destinies of the world and the Armor 3s of the world is kind of where we're going, with some cool sci-fi elements like, you know, zero-G motion and, you know, different kinds of weapons you wouldn't normally get. So there you are. I think that's a rather lengthy answer for data transfers question. Okay, next question comes from Rochewart, who asks, will there be any advantages to wearing light or medium armor versus heavy armor? Well, I just answered that question for you. Basically, it's what I mentioned, which is you know, the impact on your stamina. So if you're wearing light armor, you can move quicker. You also won't tire out as fast. Medium armor, you will not be able to move quite as quick, or you'll tire out maybe a little faster, but not nearly as much as heavy armor. And then obviously, of course, with light, you can take less damage than you can with medium, and medium takes less damage with heavy. So there's a trade-off in all the stuff. Also, in terms of your helmet and your visibility in heavy, you're going to have less visibility than you will in the light armor. There you go. All right, last question comes from Kaelitus Carnifex. I hope I said that right. What level of control should we expect while working with NPC characters in FPS? How will you issue orders to your NPCs? First off, I just want to be clear, in the initial release of the FPS module, there are no sort of AI or NPCs that will be part of it. It will be multiplayer only at the beginning. I've scheduled to sort of next thing up to sort of have a horde mode for FPS, where you're fighting off a bunch of, you're either Marines fighting off Outlaws, or Outlaws fighting off Marines. And then we'll carry on doing other FPS scenarios. We will obviously have NPCs in FPS ultimately, and there'll definitely be NPCs in things like Squadron 42 and Persistent Universe. The NPC character sort of commands would be a lot, not too dissimilar to what we're working on right now for Arena Commander, which is one of the future Arena Commander sort of updates, which is needed for Squadron 42, which is like wingman commands. So you basically say things like, attack my target, or cover my 6, stay on my wing. All those sort of things you say in Arena Commander, you've said in Wing Commander a million times. And there's sort of the equivalent on the FPS stuff, which is attack my target, or go to this point, or breach this door, all those kind of things. So that will be sort of longer term stuff that you'll be able to sort of issue sort of commands to other NPCs, and hopefully they will listen to you and do them, because they have their own AI, and so they may not necessarily always listen to you. All right, there you go. There's the 10 questions. So it's been really great chatting to you guys. Normally I would say see you next week, but that's probably won't be. I mean, we may try to do a 10 for the chairman from the UK sometime. It's just difficult because I'm going to be very busy with the shooting, which is a pretty full-time event. And then of course after that I'll be spending the next few hours catching up on everything that's happening on the game development. So I've got some long days ahead of me, but I'm pretty excited to be off going and doing it. But I would like to thank all of you for listening. I'd like to thank the subscribers for making this possible. I would like to thank all the backers out there who have made the whole game and everything we're doing possible, building this game with this crazy ambition, allowing me to go and have a huge amount of fun directing the Squadron 42 performance capture and putting all this stuff together with you. I can't wait till you guys play it, allowing us to have such a talented group of people to be making the game. And it's awesome. So thank you all. And I will speak to you soon, and definitely see you in the verse. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.